Good morning, I'm Matt.
And I'm Tim, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show.
Today we want to get this beautiful specimen of Acer Palmatum Koto-no-ito on camera for you, show you what a mature one looks like, and just give you a better understanding of Acer Palmatum Koto-no-ito.
We're here in the private gardens of Dr. Jerry Critikos and Jerry Critikos in Flat Rock, North Carolina. And we're running around and checking out all the cool specimens. We've done a video with this about before, but it was before we had better equipment. And this is such a beautiful tree. We decided to do an update on this tree. Koto-no-ito is such an amazing tree out in the landscape and garden. I like it most because of these thread-like leaves that give it such a unique texture out there in the landscape and garden for a mid-sized tree.
Now when this tree first leaves out, it has a very, very bright chartreuse foliage. As you can see here in the landscape, it has a bright chartreuse green to it. It'll get to more of a Kelly green midsummer and excellent yellows in the fall. This can get yellows to oranges in the fall. Often that early bit of fall color can almost be highlighter yellow, getting to more oranges late in the season. So it's a spectacular tree for those color changes all year long.
Now, the name Koto-no-ito translates as Japanese string or harp string. And the reason it is because these thin thread-like linear leaves look almost like strings. And that's where it gets that poetic name of Koto-no-ito.
I love this plant for its texture. It makes an amazing texture garden. Even stronger, you can put this near other lace leaf types that are going to be more low. It essentially has that look of an upright green lace leaf. So you get a more even elongated foliage with it being a linear lobulum. It has those long strap leaf like leaves, and it gives it something a little extra there in the garden, but it really just pairs so excellently with any of the red lace leaves. Like I like to put this near a red lace leaf, and you've got that upright appeal to it. You're getting that texture higher up. You're creating dynamic contrast in your garden with height changes, but you're also getting that, really interesting foliage that just adds so much to the landscape.
And that texture you're talking about is just an open airiness that you get with the thin thread-like leaves. It really gives this plant a really open, airy appearance for a nice mid-sized tree that's going to end up getting about 8 to 10 feet tall in 10 years. Now, let's talk about sunlight conditions, because I know a lot of people all want to really know about sunlight conditions. We can grow this in full sun here in western North Carolina. If you're in a hotter climate though, you may need to give this some protection from the hot afternoon sun, because this is a plant that'll be much, much slower growing and may show some burn, especially on young plants in full sun and hotter climates.
Now, I love this plant for that foliage like we were talking about. I think it has one of the most graceful looks. Often the linear lobulums are the types with that strap leaf-like foliage, and those are used to create a bamboo-like feel in the garden. They essentially have a bamboo-like foliage. They give it a very Asian garden appearance, and I think there's nothing more graceful than a Koto-no-ito in the wind. It just kind of has that open, airy look, but don't take that open, airy look for an understanding that it's too delicate. This is a very durable tree. This tree is going to work zones 5 through 9. The key there being good drainage for this one. So siding is important. You don't want it in a boggy or wet feet condition, but it is a super durable Japanese maple that's going to go out and do amazing in your landscape, and just really give you something a little extra there in the landscape.
If you want to talk about plants that would be good companions with this, full moon Japanese maples, those Acer japonicums have those large round leaves, give a dynamic contrast, specifically with the thin thread-like foliage. So both play off each other very well. We have in our gardens at Maplewood Knoll Gardens, planted pretty close to this, an Acer Palmatum Makawi Atabusa. Now Makawi Atabusa is a short, dense, very layering type plant, so it's going to be very full and dense, where this is open and airy. And so the textures play off each other fantastically. Obviously you can also plant things like red weeping lace leaves or upright red types like a blood goat or an emperor one, and they contrast so well. The truth is you can't really go wrong with choosing something to pair with this because they're so unique that it stands out from the crowd. And now a word from our awesome sponsor.
Hey, a lot of people laugh when we say the sponsor of the Mr. Maple Show is MrMaple.com, but it couldn't be more true. Supporting us on MrMaple.com gives us the opportunity to do more of these videos, and if this is something that you enjoy, definitely support us by shopping on MrMaple.com. You make our growing empire here of Japanese maples expanding by day, so we're able to have a full-time staff working on shipping. We're able to have guys like Brian behind the camera making this beautiful content for you, and we're able to get more content like this out to you. So if you appreciate that kind of thing, we definitely appreciate your support by shopping on MrMaple.com. Those long string-like leaves really evoke to me an essence of just Asian gardening. I can see this in a Chinese style garden with a moon door, just giving that appearance of bamboo there in the landscape. It certainly would work excellent in some traditional Japanese landscapes as well, because it has that open, airy appearance. So it gives you that kind of bamboo essence in the garden, but with the ever-changing beauty of a Japanese maple. So you get something much more exciting, much less invasive, and much more beautiful in the landscape. But you still get that open, airy appearance, that kind of ethereal, almost like foliage on this. I love how it just has that otherworldly quality to Koto-no-ito. It's one I love in the landscape. It's probably another one I tend to plant too many of. We only get to keep 2 of everything here at Mr. Maple, but it's a plant I really love this one.
I like Koto-no-ito too. One of the questions we get a lot about this plant is during the summer, it'll push a growth that's a little bit wider in the summer. The secondary fleshes of this will have a little bit wider leaf to it. Don't worry about that. You only really need to worry about checking in the spring. If you see a lot of wide foliage during the spring, that's when to prune out reversions on some of the lunar lobum types. But Koto-no-ito, the secondary flush that typically happens about June to August, that flush of growth is always going to be much wider than the spring flush that you've seen in the early spring. We had some people say, I pruned it out every single year and it just never got any growth.
Right.
Don't worry. It's best to check for reversions on lunar lobum types in the spring. Koto-no-ito is not one that's known for having a lot of reversions on it. It's a pretty stable cultivar, but that secondary flush of growth will be a little bit wider than the spring flush that you're seeing right here.
Yeah, that late summer juvenile growth can be quite odd on Japanese maples. It's probably one of the most commonly asked questions in summer, and that can be true of any Japanese maples. Typically late in that season, it's enlarged and it's a little irregular from that summer growth, but the following season, after that's hardened off, you're going to get that smaller, stringier growth, as that new growth will be the older growth at that point. And so you'll see that more what you want in Koto-no-ito, that stringy, nice growth. So don't feel like you have to go out there and prune out the larger growth in this one, unless you're seeing it in that spring garden.
We hope you've enjoyed this video on Koto-no-ito. I think this is an awesome specimen. I knew we just had to stop and shoot a video on this tree. I know we've got a video on it before, but this tree is so awesome. I hope we added something to the conversation. And if you want to add more to the conversation, put it in the comment section below. We check that out. There's a great community there happening in our comment sections on our videos, and we appreciate you getting involved.
Hey, like, subscribe, and share. Sharing our channel with your garden friends is a great way to get more people involved. If someone's new to Japanese maples, or if you have that family member you know is crazy about Japanese maples, we greatly appreciate you introducing them to MrMaple.com. It's a great place to find Japanese maples, and our YouTube channel here is a great way to learn more about them. So we hope you've enjoyed this. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.